Welcome to JASANZ Cast, a podcast for JASANZ news and industry-related matters. In this episode, our Technical Services Manager, Matthew Pitt, interviews Corey Dehmey, CEO of Sustainable Electronics Recycling International, or SERI, and scheme owner of the JASANZ-endorsed SERI R2 Scheme. We'll learn more about the SERI R2 standard, how it was developed, and how it contributes to circular economy. Let's dive in.
Hello, Corey. My name is Matt Pitt. I'm the Technical Manager at JASANZ, and I'm here to interview you today about the SERI R2 Scheme, which JASANZ has endorsed as suitable for the issuance of JASANZ accreditation services, and to which we are launching accreditation services for the scheme on the 18th of April in Brisbane at the official launch. So we just have a few questions here today about the SERI R2, its benefits and the scheme itself. And the first question is, who are SERI? Can you tell us a bit about yourselves?
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me. So SERI is a nonprofit organization in the United States. We don't have any members. We are completely independent, which I think is important when we talk about standards development and schemes. So SERI's mission is to create a world where electronics are reused and recycled in ways that preserve the natural resources, protect our environment, and protect the health and safety of workers and communities. Our vision of the world is that we can build a world where everywhere you look, you can find a responsible refurbisher, recycler of electronics.
I understand that SERI is an accredited standard development organisation by ANSI. What does that mean to be an accredited standard development organisation?
Yeah, so we are audited, just like our R2 certified facilities are audited. We're audited to make sure that our development process of this standard is balanced, that there's no dominance issues, that it's open and transparent, and that the result is credible. So we're accredited by ANSI in that standards development process. We have a stakeholder group across multiple categories that actually develop the standard. So it's not SERI who is deciding what the requirements of the standard is. It is the stakeholders themselves, from the recyclers themselves to governments to customers. Those three stakeholder groups are deciding what are the responsible reuse and recycling requirements.
For some of those in Australia and New Zealand, basically what Corey explained is the equivalent of an AS/NZS designation for a standard. So the SERI R2 should be thought, in our view, to have a USA SERI R2, but it is marketed merely as R2. But the point is it's a national standard.
If I could add to that, within our standard development process, yes, it is based out of the US and not accredited by ANSI. But our stakeholder group is global. The folks that are on the stakeholder committee developing the standard are from Australia as well, from India, from Asia, Europe, North and South America. So we think we have a good representation in that group that actually develops the R2 standard.
What is the SERI R2 standard and why was it developed?
So what the standard seeks to do is to give confidence to the market, that the facilities that are actually taking electronics back, wiping the data, testing them, repairing them, putting them back into use, or in many cases, recycling them for materials. The R2 scheme is there to make sure it's done right.
Yeah, that links to my next question, which is what can go wrong, with facilities that are in the business of reusing, refurbishing, recycling, and disposing of electronic waste? Yeah. Why do we need a standard? Why wouldn't you just start up and practice based on your own, understanding of e-waste? What can go wrong? What are the issues?
Lots of people, want to do good, right? The reality is it's not a heavy investment to get into reuse or recycling of electronics. And so everybody's going to tell you that they do it right. But what does that mean? How do you know that it's being done right? So it's important to have the standard, which defines what good practices are, and then things that can go wrong. The biggest example is, you sell something to somebody else because they'll pay you, $1 for it, but it doesn't mean that they're going to do the right things with it. And especially when we bulk things up and sell electronics to somebody else, the market does not incentivize the proper behavior. The market incentivizes making money. And what happens to all the stuff that doesn't have a value, that is broken, that's damaged, that costs too much to repair, that isn't new enough, or has hazardous materials in it? The market doesn't control or incentivize the right outcomes with electronics. And that's why a standard is necessary, and that's why a certification program is necessary. That, when we dispose of our electronics, wherever it is in the process, whether you send it back, something new you bought, to returns, or you are trading in because you are upgrading your electronics, wherever that happens in the process, the standards and certification of R2 are important to ensuring the right outcomes.
Thanks, Corey. And I understand your standard features the waste management and processing hierarchy, with reuse being the fundamental first question and imperative to do for a facility. So from an outsider looking in, it's certainly a standard that speaks to the appropriate, efficient reuse as the starting point before you think about anything else. So that is a good feature of your standard.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that, because it is a more unique feature of the R2 standard, and that is forcing, the reuse of not just whole devices, but if it's not the whole device, what about the inkjet cartridge, coming out of that printer? It's the components of those devices as well. And the more we can reuse, the less we have to manufacture, and less we have to manufacture, the better impact on the climate that we have. So this is really the transition from not just simply e-waste management, or making sure that we don't pollute from the disposal of electronics. This is about reshaping how we all handle electronics. It's about reshaping the world into a more circular economy, where we're reusing everything, repairing, putting it back into use before we get to that end of life. And then when we do, we're not just, again, properly disposing of it, but we're actually recycling it. We're actually capturing the materials from those electronics.
What are the significant benefits of the standard and scheme? Could you give some examples?
Yeah, I'm really proud of this. I mean, this is the third version of R2. It started in 2005. The process was started by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, who sought out to try to develop a standard that could be used in lieu of potentially regulating electronics recycling. And so they took on this journey and spearheaded the first development of the standard. When the standard came out, recyclers themselves wanted to have a way to say, hey, how can we be recognized for actually doing the right thing? And so that developed into the certification program, and then SERI was formed to keep developing the standard and keep the program rolling. So again, we're in the third version. What's great about the third version here is we went from 2008, the first version, focused really on recycling, right? With a little bit of data, with a little bit of reuse. The 2013 version evolved to include more reuse and more data security. And this version now has been restructured to be flexible and adaptive to changes in technology and to a wide variety of different facilities that engage in this whole recycling chain. So anything from the collector to test and repair centers, all the way to the manual dismantling and the automated mechanical systems as well, all the way to the smelter. At the end of life, recovering the gold from circuit boards can actually be certified as well. So the design of this of R2 right now in R2 V3 is really designed to fit. An example of that is that we just made an incremental addition. The R2 TAC that develops the standard was able to add solar panels. So now all of those facilities, the 1,148 facilities in 41 countries, can now add certification to solar panels coming through those same facilities. And it expands the opportunity to facilities that are only doing solar panels to be able to certify as well.
Excellent, Corey. Yeah, certainly in Australia, New Zealand, and our neighbouring countries, we have a lot of sun, and we're well placed for solar, so which will lead ultimately to end-of-life reuse and disposal questions. Just in brief, Corey, does the SERI R2 contribute to the UN Sustainable Development Goals?
I believe it does. And in many ways, I think reducing waste is the first one. Responsible consumption and production, the climate action, obviously, and life on land, I believe, are a few key ones. The UN SDGs align with the outcomes of what we're trying to do.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we'll gather the data with yourselves to talk to the key indicators for those UN SDGs. There's targets within them. So yeah, we look forward to putting proof to principle about how we do contribute to the UN SDGs with yourselves. Moving, I guess, to the broader context of the legal requirements and the international context, I guess a question for a lot of our stakeholders is often, what is the link between a voluntary standard and requirements or legal requirements? So the question we have is, what is the link between the R2 and legal requirements and international regulations?
So This was intentionally designed to fit with legal requirements wherever facility is in the world. So it might look different between a facility in the United States and one in the Philippines or one in New Zealand. But the goal, just like with the management systems that R2 also requires, is number one, we have to identify and document those legal requirements. We have to understand them. We have to put in place the controls to implement those legal requirements. R2 goes one step further, and it does require a legal compliance audit. So a formal review by somebody who is specialized in legal compliance. So this is an internal audit within the facility, but we want to make sure that R2 certified facilities are doing a good job of managing their legal requirements. Legal requirements could be local legal requirements, local permitting requirements. It could be state or national requirements that vary. And it also is international requirements. So R2 pulls in very specifically import-export legal requirements. It requires that shipments being exported or imported are verified to be compliant with Basel and to be compliant with each country that it passes through. And so I think it's a very important part of R2 is the import-export compliance, because this is a global market.
So who can apply for SERI R2 certification?
Yeah. R2 is set up to be, first of all, facility-based. So when we look at an address, a facility, anything that goes through that facility has to comply with R2. So this isn't just saying, I provide an R2 certified service. Anything going to that address has to be conforming to R2. But it's not always the facility. So facilities could be, this is anybody who can meet the core requirements of the standard can be certified. So that could be a collector on the front end who is just aggregating electronics and sending them through the supply chain. It could be, a IT, what we call ITADs, those taking assets from businesses, UE, and bringing them back through testing, repairing, and reselling them. It could be a recycler. It could be a basic small recycler, 1-2 people, all the way up to, the most advanced recycler. So there's no size minimum to being R2 certified. It's just that facility. And I say facility, but I also have to mention, you don't actually have to have a facility. So we want to make sure that anybody who touches used electronics can be certified, because we want more people in the system and more transparency. So a broker or a trader who is just buying assets and selling them, having them shipped directly from the upstream to the downstream, a broker can also be R2 certified. And in many cases, it's harder to be a R2 certified broker.
We have heard your scheme described by stakeholders and yourselves as a form of a chain of custody scheme for electronics and electronic components, that once you enter into the chain, you can be confident that the rest of it will be taken care of, and you yourselves don't have to track it. It's the facility's job, which we find really attractive, because everyone's very busy and you don't have time necessarily to follow every little output from your organization in terms of resources. So we certainly see the benefits to simplification and transparency from that. The next question is more about JASANZ. Why did you seek JASANZ accreditation services to the SERI R2 scheme?
Well, so first of all, it's really important to us that SERI is not the decision maker. We don't review any of the work of the auditor. We want to make sure it's independent judgment. But in order to set up an independent scheme, right, we need good accreditation bodies at the top. So we rely on IAF member accreditation bodies. And so looking at expansion into Asia Pacific and what was already developing there, we needed to have local infrastructure and resources, because we see the world, if we get to our vision of this world where you can find responsible reuse and recycling facilities everywhere, well, that's not just, one location. We have to have the infrastructure everywhere. And so JASANZ is a well-known accreditation body covering, the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, ASEAN countries, and beyond. But we thought that approaching JASANZ about collaborating with SERI and becoming an accreditation body under our R2 scheme would be a great way to further circular economy and principles going throughout this region.
Well, we hope to add value to your scheme, but certainly for clarity, the scheme is up and running in Australia, New Zealand, and in Asia Pacific already with a couple of accreditation bodies. So we hope to be a good contributor with them to your scheme. Thank you for your application. We've got the last final questions here. How many IF member accreditation bodies are currently providing accreditation services to the scheme?
So currently there's three. There's ANAB based out of North America. There's NABCB based out of India. And then JASANZ would be the third. But it's a big world, Matt.
It is a big world.
There's a lot of
certainly we're very comfortable working with those ABs, and we look forward to working with them and yourselves in the R2 and providing a good network of AB services to any certification bodies interested in seeking SERI approval for the scheme. To be clear, certification bodies do enter into a SERI R2 agreement as a precondition to being accepted for their application for accreditation. And we can talk to certification bodies about that further, and we will on the 18th of April at our launch. Lastly, Corey, do you have any comments to stakeholders and others about the SERI R2 standard and scheme? Any last thoughts or suggestions or insights?
Yeah, so, just to point out that SERI is independent. We are a standards developer, but we don't actually certify facilities, and we want to remain independent. That's the work of the accreditation bodies and certification bodies program there. But what we do, in addition to other scheme owners, is we provide a lot of resources to help people implement R2, to help them in their journey towards certification. So we are doing, we have a ton of free resources online. The standard is free to download. You don't have to pay for the standard. So from our website, sustainableelectronics.org, you can download the standard. You can download tons of information from our knowledge base, 42 training videos now, I believe, to help people implement the R2 standard. We also have really immersive training courses that folks can take as well, and not just the auditors, but the facilities themselves. And so we're really trying to drive the ability to achieve certification, first of all, and to help people do that. And on the other end, we mentioned multiple accreditation bodies and a number of different CBs and many 100+ auditors. So we're really focused on a quality assurance program, and we are building all the oversight of the entire scheme just to drive consistency and credibility throughout the entire program across the entire world. So as the scheme owner, our role is to help the rest of the world be able to achieve R2 certification, and that's how we get to sustainability.
Excellent, Corey. You're complying with modern regulatory policy, which is starting with a pyramid of supports, and the fundamental base is information and assistance before you get to the pointy end. And you certainly have a lot of materials which we've appreciated going through to give everyone the best chance of understanding and conforming to the standard. So really thank you, Corey and Sharada and the wider team at SERI for your application for scheme endorsement. We congratulate you on obtaining endorsement of the scheme as suitable for JASANZ accreditation services. And we look forward to seeing you in person, Corey, in Brisbane on the 18th of April for our official launch. We encourage everyone to attend that event, and meeting details will be provided for online and in-person attendance. But thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you. And we look forward to working with JASANZ and look forward to helping the South Pacific region to create more recognized, responsible reuse and recycling facilities.
And thanks, Corey, for your time. You probably got to go to sleep, Corey. It's late on a Sunday. So, really thanks for your time.